not spontaneous eruptions, but there really is a division that they're trying to patch over between Ron Paul and the Romney team. They try to give him a video. They won't give him a speech because he has not yet endorsed, as John Yang was reporting earlier in the hour. He still has not endorsed Mitt Romney, but he wants to protect the future of Rand Paul, his senator's son,
right,
who has national ambitions.
So it's unlikely that he'll do something dramatic and go as a third-party candidate, it seems to me, because of his son and also because of his age. But, you have that kind of mobile army that exists out there of people who are not happy with what they're being treated, and they still have some real reservations about the ideology of Mitt Romney. I spent a fair amount of time with the Ron Paul people in South Carolina, for example, and I get it. When you're with them, these are people who are overnight clerks and discount motels, and they are forklift operators in discount places and warehouses and so on. And when he talks about building a Taj Mahal for an embassy in Iraq or in Afghanistan, they go crazy because they don't think that that's going to advance their interest whatsoever. So I think he will continue to have an appeal to people who are at the working class, who are deeply suspicious of the government in almost every regard, and give voice to a lot of their concerns.
And what they've been shouting behind us, behind this glass, is let him speak, let him speak. But the Romney team is very well organized. They're here, they're in control. They're planning to roll out a biographical saga of the real Romney. You wrote the book, but they want to tell a slightly different story. What is it that they are trying to change about the public's impressions of Mitt Romney?
Well, if anyone knows about division at a convention, it's Mitt Romney, because 48 years ago, when he was 17 years old, he was by his father's side in the 1964 convention, and Barry Goldwater was the nominee, and George Romney tried to get that convention to endorse a plank that said they would support civil rights legislation, which Goldwater had opposed, and to oppose extremism, and they rejected both those proposals. And Mitt was there. He was at the epicenter of this war within the Republican Party when his father was trying to turn it more to the moderate side. And now the storyline has flipped. 48 years later, Mitt Romney is coming in trying to convince these delegates that he represents what in effect is today's Goldwater wing, that he is, as he's called himself, severely conservative, quote unquote. So the last thing they want is for Ron Paul to play a role that his father was, in a very different way, as a moderate, was playing, trying to disrupt the 64 convention. So they know what can happen when there's disruption. Goldwater, of course, was trounced, and they want a unified message, but there's still some in the party that aren't quite getting that message.
There's real opportunity here because the new CBS poll, which again, as the other polls have shown, shows a static race. It's basically tied. We're talking about 46 for President Obama, 45 for Mitt Romney. That's no difference at all. But there's a really interesting number here. The number of people who say they're still undecided about who Mitt Romney is. So they have not been persuaded one way or the other by all of the negative ads. They've not been persuaded by his success or failure in defining himself. They still don't know who he is. That is a large number of people who are open to suggestions from.
Well, that's who he's going to be talking to on Thursday night. Yeah, he's going to be talking to those people who are the undecided. He knows he's got the Republican base at this point, and my guess is that the Ron Paul people will make some noise here, but we'll see very little of it on television because they don't have that many seats on the floor, frankly, and that this will be a tightly controlled convention, as all of them now are. So what Mitt Romney has to do is reach those undecided voters, especially in the key states of places like Ohio and Iowa and Wisconsin and Virginia. Florida's still in play to some degree, and persuade them that he represents not only their values, but they can be comfortable with him on a personal basis, that they can turn to each other, a couple in a living room watching him, as I said last night, and say, not crazy about him, but I could live with that guy.
And that he's a sort of Mr. Fix-It, not a Mr. Richie Rich, but someone who can fix the economic problems.
You do not change your personality. There is not a kind of metamorphosis that takes place at his age and given all that he is. And I think that they understand that. He has to come out and be warm, but also he really has to say to him, I'm the guy who can replace the guy that you voted for and get the economy moving again. It's time to get rid of the other guy.
And he's going to have validators, principally his wife, of course. But also, I was talking earlier to Kelly Ayotte, the senator from New Hampshire. When she speaks tonight, she's going to speak about small business people. She's going to speak about her husband, Joe, who's going to be sitting in the New Hampshire delegation. I said, so what does Joe think of the speech? You're going to talk about him. And she said, as we watch Ron Paul again on the floor, there he is live. reaching out to supporters. Senator Ayotte said to me that she said, let me practice the speech. And Joe said to her, I don't want to hear it until I hear it live on the floor. It's sort of a lovely moment. He's going to be sitting out there in the New Hampshire delegation. She's going to be talking about him and his role in business, and he wants to hear it for the first time when she's on that podium.
Well, they're going to have a lot of small business, independent businesses
Exactly.
On screen tonight and on that podium because they think that's a great strength for them going forward. But let's talk for a moment about, when Mitt Romney stands up there Thursday night, will he be seeing his father, do you think?
I think he'll be hearing his father's voice in his ear. It's an extraordinary moment. His father had tried for years to become the presidential nominee, of course, dropped out before the first primary in 1968. So it must be really an extraordinary moment. He's got to pay homage to his father, and that really has been something that he's been thinking about since his father failed to win the nomination back when he ran in '68.
Michael, it's always great to have you. The Real Romney is the book, and you are the real Michael Kranish. Thank you.